I give the floor to project leader Andreas Karner from ConPlusUltra.
Yes, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you can hear me and you can see me. Yes, I will share my screen. Just a second. So, okay, I hope you are able to see my screen now. Yes, welcome and thank you very much for the invitation to this quite interesting session so far. I may briefly introduce myself and then also give the chance to very briefly present our project. My name is Andreas Karner. I work for a consulting company based here in Austria, in Vienna, ConPlusUltra. We are the lead partner in a European funded project, as Janetta was mentioning. The name is EFIX, creating an innovative financing mix for energy efficiency. We are heading this project on behalf of 12 partners from 6 different countries with a focus on Central Eastern Europe and the European neighborhood. Project. Yeah, can I just ask for those who are not speaking to mute themselves? So it's yes, thank you. I guess avoid any background noise here. Yeah, for all those who are listening to this session here, I mean, this, as Janetta mentioned, we're talking about representing some EU-funded project. The focus is a little bit different from what you have heard so far. We have a specific focus in this project on basically combining the challenges from an energy perspective and trying to implement innovative energy projects, especially innovative energy financing projects, using specific financing mechanisms. And the project is basically dedicated to find out what the key challenges are and how to overcome them in a method that we can also look into the future and anticipate more the issues that are related to the issue or the topic of financing energy efficiency projects. I guess for those of you who are aware of the situation and are also dealing with these topics, I guess we can see a lot of key challenges why in energy efficiency implementation is lagging behind. I'm talking here mainly about the private sector. So this means industry, SMEs, but also looking a little bit into the public sector, because we see huge potentials, technical potentials, basically in all major sectors. We are not focusing here in this project on household level, though, since this has a little bit of different impact on the selection of financing instruments. But what we still see as a main challenge to hinder the implementation of energy efficiency is mainly, let's say, criteria for selection of implementation. When you talk to businesses and when you talk to decision makers, you very often come across the topic of too complicated, long payback times. There's a lack of financing means. We do have partly outdated or inefficient technology, but there is not sufficient, so to say, incentives to make sure that these technologies can be brought up to the latest standard. And we are trying to use these challenges basically to also see how we can combine this knowledge, what we combine the experience from both sectors, basically including people from the financing sector and people from the let's say from the technical background, with the aim to say that energy, that's going one step back, actually. Yeah, this is the right slide. To focus on financing mechanisms as a trigger for energy efficiency realization, and to see how this can be combined with existing mechanisms that are in place in the market. Our experience, and we are a consulting firm, but we have partners here from the banking sector, from the financing sectors, even some leasing companies and crowdfunding companies that do have a different viewpoint. But usually we see this kind of dilemma between the left-hand side, the what we call the investors. The investors into energy projects being those who are triggering, let's say, the implementation. On the other hand, project developers on the right hand side are the ones, the businesses, and those who are basically supposed also to develop and to prepare such kind of projects. And what we try to basically work on are the perceived risks of uncertainty, undercapacitation, missing know-how, missing experiences, and also a little bit restricted access to funds. And this is basically what we are trying to bridge within the EFIX project, and basically to showcase how this could be done, let's say, better and more successful in practice. So what are the most common barriers? We see, and this is of course also a little bit country specific or region specific, since we also focusing here on partly on European neighborhoods countries, like for instance Armenia and Georgia that are part of this project. We also see different legal developments from those areas, since they are not EU members yet. However, they are trying, and they are trying to access the European Union. So this means that there is still a gap, a quite big legal or institutional gap between different countries. And this leads also to the fact that there is partly different level of capacitation or awareness even that leads to somehow a lack of know-how or even lack of public acceptance in developing such kind of project. On the other hand, the biggest barriers, or the biggest common barrier, is also the restricted access to funds. How is it possible to mobilize funds for energy efficiency investments? Here we're talking about, let's say, these typical technicalities when you try to get funds from, I don't know, from a bank or from any other kind of financing institution. They will ask you usually for collateral. They will ask you also for some administrative issues. So we see also in terms of new and let's say innovative financing instrument, the issue of regulations and current regulatory framework. For instance, just to give you an example, since we're working on that, crowdfunding and crowdfinancing, which is quite an interesting approach, but still requires also proactive, let's say, legal and regulatory framework to make this kind of alternative investments happening. And through this project, basically, we would like to, well, we are hoping to help mitigate these kind of barriers. And what we especially also focus on is to build a kind of knowledge transfer by testing out specific innovative financing mechanisms, and make sure that they can be also, let's say, challenged against each other in different countries and in different environments. So EFIX aims to support innovative financing instruments and to realize pilot energy financing campaigns by looking into 3 types of financing mechanisms. One of them is energy performance contracting. I guess this is quite a, let's say, successful implemented tool or mechanism in different countries and for different types of projects, especially larger scale energy or energy efficiency projects, for instance, in industry or also in the public sector. We are working on leasing mechanism, equipment leasing, which is a very nice instrument if you're talking about, let's say, financing of equipment that is being used, for instance, in industry, in agriculture, or in other sectors, to replace basically new equipment with outdated equipment. And the third instrument that we are looking at is crowdfunding, crowd investing as a part of including and involving, let's say, the crowd. So individuals or interested people that would also support the idea of a specific project in the public or private sector. So EFIX project is basically moving along three directions. And you see here also the countries that we are covering. So it's basically Austria, Czech Republic, Croatia, Poland, Georgia, and Armenia. So basically 2 non-EU member states. We try to, and we are establishing a kind of knowledge transfer between the project partnership. We're building capacity and increasing the competences of dedicated market actors. And we are involving what we call them so-called EFIX ambassadors. So these are people, stakeholders, representatives from businesses, from regional authorities, from agencies, from the financing sectors. So different stakeholders that are relevant for this process. And we train them to become ambassadors for innovative financing within the EFIX project sphere. And third column is basically to roll out innovative financing mechanisms and new structures of these kind of mechanisms being tested in these different countries, and tailored them to the specific needs and to the specific country-specific regulations and environment to increase the investment in the long term, especially in energy efficiency. So what can we add? Well, I'm able to show already. This project is in the 3rd year of its operation. Unfortunately, like many other EU-funded projects, we are suffering a little bit from the impacts from COVID, which also have a kind of effect on the implementation of pilot financing campaigns and pilot actions. However, we have been able to already produce a lot of reasonable and useful results and documents, which are also available from our website. So we have been working on some guidelines and baseline assessments of the financing sectors and the energy policies in different countries. We have done some kind of analysis of case studies that are available to showcase good practice. We have done gap analysis also to understand what the gaps and what the barriers are in the implementation of these innovative financing mechanisms. We have developed training materials. So there is a specific training modules available for these 3 financing mechanisms that we are looking at. We have developed a kind of catalog to standardize the systematic assessment of energy projects. And to come up with some useful evaluation methods when designing projects, when deciding about the implementation of financing instruments. And what we are currently working on, and this is what I mentioned about the delay, is the implementation of pilot projects where we basically test the financing mechanisms. For us, the very important aspect is the stakeholder engagement. So we call it multi-stakeholder engagement through the setup of the EFIX ambassadors. And these ambassadors, as we said, are those that we think are relevant actors that are supposed to multiply and to disseminate the good practice approach that is being tested within this project. And we have involved them already in series of trainings on a country-by-country basis. And they are the ones that are also partly supporting the implementation of pilot projects. So the idea is that through this capacitation ongoing in this project, we will be able to build up a stronger setup of stakeholders in the different countries that will also work on new and basically disseminate and replicate the good practice results of EFIX in the future. What we are also supposed to develop, and this is something that is currently also in the process, is to set up what we call national competence centers for energy financing. So there will be some kind of national structure of replication and triggering future projects by setting up and by combining basically the capacities and the competences that have been developed within this project further on. This is going to be individual structures. We have, for instance, in the case of Poland, this is going to be a setup within the existing regional energy agency of MAI. In other countries, like in Austria, we will have a kind of virtual competence centers where we will be able to basically host and share these good practice examples in a, let's say, more virtual basis, and then therefore also invite stakeholders and interesting parties to further use these kind of materials that are available as a result of this project. Coming to these pilot campaigns, just to give you a little bit of ideas what we are talking about. So the pilot financing campaigns are focused on energy efficiency projects. Not only, we also consider renewable energies. Very often this is these are combined projects. We have, for instance, stakeholders being either businesses or being then even more than also public sector representatives, since we see that certain instruments work better in the public sphere. For instance, crowdfunding projects, whereas leasing projects work very well with SME and with small and local businesses. But what we usually cover in these pilot campaigns is to test basically the financing instruments in the implementation of a specific energy efficiency or renewable energy action. This is currently in the process, and we have a pipeline of basically a lot of projects, basically, some of them fairly small, some of them bigger ones. But currently we are talking about a pipeline of more than 20 million euros that is going to be triggered through the support of EFIX. And this is why we have been also selected as a horizon project for funding, because we keep a close eye on practical issues that are relevant for the market and also for testing it in a real bed, rather than putting a lot of let's say research methodology behind it, because we think that we need very proactive approach in seeing what is necessary to realize especially energy efficiency project in practice. And through our opinion and through our basically approach, we see that one missing link or one missing piece in the puzzle is very often financing aspect. And although financing seems to be very cheap in times like these, where the market is let's say partly overcapitalized, we still see, let's say, these technical issues connected with the evaluation of the project, with the financial appraisal and with the financial due diligence, together with the technical due diligence. So we still are able to mobilize funds and financing instruments through these projects or through these volumes that you see here. But in practical terms, it's rather difficult and it's rather challenging. And I guess this is not only because of COVID and because, you know, everybody's a little bit taking a little bit serious about the decisions to mobilize funds. And of course, facing a lot of delays in times like these, where it's not clear how situation will evolve. But our general, let's say, feedback is that we think that it's the right time to move into the market with practical support and with building knowledge and building capacities in the framework of such kind of projects. So finally, what are we aiming for? This is going to be one of our outstanding deliverables, also to develop a kind of European roadmap. So EFIX roadmap is going somehow to consider the European scale vision and to see how this also Green Deal and other goals on the EU transnational level are influencing the realization of projects and therefore also the financing. We will also include here a strong stakeholder approach. So it will be also for those who are interested also to contribute and to maybe get more information and also hear a little bit more on our recommendations and results. We will also invite you, of course, to be part of this process. And this roadmap will be combined with individual actions plans that will be developed on a country by country level. And we will be able also to illustrate that action is required in the short, but also in the long term on the European, but also, of course, on a national level. Last slide to close it up. Basically, these are the expected impacts of this project. So we are developing roadmap, we are developing action plans, we are training ambassadors and stakeholders. We are triggering investments that will finally lead to actually more than 8 million euro of actual investments in projects, but we will also trigger savings in renewable energy implementation and build in the long term structures that will also help energy efficiency to be further on kept in a kind of process and dissemination status by setting up different structures on a national level. I hope I was able to give you a little bit of insight what we are doing in this, I think, quite interesting project. Yeah, if there is time, I guess we are quite short in time, at least according to the agenda, but please do not hesitate to also send me a message or ask if you have any questions. Thanks very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much. It's Silvio speaking from Italy. It was very interesting because also our project is to work on both level, energy planning and also financial instruments, or in a way to make an assessment on the use of finance in order to trigger new projects. So my question, it is true we don't have too much time and we are late, so it can be short with this answer. My question would be, I think that now with the COVID issue, the recovery plan, the Green Deal and so on, I guess a lot of public money will be made available for energy efficiency in the short, medium term. How this will affect the spread out of innovative financing mechanism? Yeah, this is the question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you.
In your opinion, at least, just
yeah, I think it will be generally. I think that we are in a very comfortable situation. Well, not because of COVID, but I think in terms of money made available for this sector of, I don't know, climate mitigation in general, but also especially energy efficiency and renewables. I think there is massive amount of money going into that sector. However, for the specific focus of this, what we are talking here about innovative financing mechanisms, I see it's still partly very positive and partly a little bit difficult. Why? Because I think, for instance, crowdfunding is something that is nice and has, I think, has nice potential to motivate people, not just because of financial benefits to step into such kind of project, but to motivate it in general and mobilize, let's say, also a little bit the awareness among different actors that have not been able to get motivated so far, I would say. So I think there are a lot of non-financial benefits, so to say, to sum it up, at least to some financing mechanisms. I think for EPC, which is a quite traditional mechanism, well, I'm meaning it's already in place for a longer time. However, I see it, for instance, in Austria, it has never been able to fly, so to say. So it was never easy to kick it off and to roll it out in large scale, yeah, apart from some sectors like public sector, for instance, yeah. Why? Because it still might be, well, too complicated. It might be, you need to get a third party to get involved. So the question is always from a perspective of the investor, is it the most appropriate mechanism? So summing up in a short, I'm not able to go into further details right now, but I think it has positive aspects definitely, but it has to also some challenges, especially for mechanisms that have not been able to be rolled out at that broad level so far. I hope this will at least be a trigger to move on and show that more innovative mechanisms will come up. But I wouldn't dare to say it's automatically very easy right now. I guess it's still a lot of challenges ahead.
Yes, thank you very much for your question. I support your concern and also the opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.